The ice in my glass it's just vibrating. I'm sitting in my garden, and the Detroit heat is that heavy, sticky kind of weight that makes everything feel slow. And I remember the condensation on the glass was making my palm wet, and I take a sip of the iced coffee and it happens. It's not a cough. It's not even a choke. It's like the air in my throat just turns into a solid block of lead. I'm reaching for my neck, but my hands, they don't feel like my hands anymore. They feel like they belong to someone else, someone far away. And I'm looking at the hydrangeas I just planted, those bright blue petals, and they're starting to turn this bruised, ugly purple around the edges. I'm trying to stand up, but the world is tilting. It's tilting so far that I'm not sure where the ground is. And I realize I'm not breathing. I'm not breathing at all. There's no panic yet, just this realization that my lungs have become useless like bags of wet sand. And then the sound comes. It's a snap, a metallic, sharp snap right in the center of my chest. And the garden it disappears. It doesn't fade out. It's like someone just cut the power to the whole universe. And now I'm here. I'm in what I call the sink. I don't know why I call it that. Maybe because I felt like I was settling into the bottom of a dead pond. But it's not just dark. It's a total absence. It's a hole where existence used to be. I'm falling, but there's no wind. There's no sense of gravity, just this crushing, heavy pressure on my soul. It's loud. The silence is so loud it's screaming in my ears. I'm trying to call out, but I don't have a mouth. I don't have a body. I'm just a point of awareness in a vacuum that wants to swallow me whole. I start to see things, but I'm not seeing them with eyes. I'm seeing them with my memory. I see every time I was cruel, every time I turned away from someone. And the sink, it takes those memories and it turns them into the walls of my cage. It's not fire. It's worse than fire. It's the feeling of being completely, utterly alone for an eternity that hasn't even started yet. I'm thinking, this is it. This is the end of Sadia. I'm just going to be this tiny, flickering thought in a black ocean forever. I'm stopping her here because what Sadia is describing is a specific phenomenological rupture that we see in about some of our more intense domestic NDE reports. When the intentionality of the human mind, its natural drive to connect with an object or a person, finds itself in a state of total sensory deprivation, the consciousness begins to invert. Using a psychological framework, we can look at this sink as a collapse of the perceptual field. There is no horizon. There is no other. In my research into these patterns, I've noticed that when a person dies alone, without the anchor of medical staff or family nearby, the transition into the void often feels more like a structural failure of reality itself. She isn't just in a dark room. She is in a state where the very concept of room has been deleted. I struggle with the word hell here, honestly. I think it's a term we use to try and put a lid on something that is much more terrifyingly abstract. It's an epistemic rupture. Sadia is experiencing the qualia of non-existence while still being aware enough to suffer through it. It's a contradiction that the brain simply isn't wired to handle, and you can hear it in her voice. The way she backtracks, the way she's trying to find a metaphor for something that was specifically designed to have no parallels in our world. I'm settling. That's the only word. I'm settling deeper into the sink, and the weight of it is like being buried under a mountain of cold wool. It's not black. People say it's black, but it's not. It's a color that feels like it's eating you. It's a bright, blinding kind of darkness. I can't tell if I've been there for a second or 1,000 years, and that's the part that makes me want to scream, but there's no air to carry the sound. I'm a mistake. I feel like a mistake that's being erased from the ledger. And then I think about the garden. I try to remember the smell of the dirt and the way the iced coffee felt in my hand, but those things feel like fairy tales. They feel like things I made up to keep from going crazy. I'm losing the memory of being a person. I'm losing the memory of Sadia. I'm just this knot of fear. But then the shadow, it starts to change texture. It was liquid, like I was drowning in ink, but now it's starting to feel like it's being torn. I hear this sound, like a curtain being ripped from top to bottom, but it's a sound made of light. I don't know how to explain that. The light didn't just appear. It broke the sink. It shattered the vacuum. It was so violent and so beautiful that I thought I was being destroyed all over again. But this time, the pressure, it wasn't pushing me down. It was pulling. I see this hand. It's not a hand like mine. It's made of everything that isn't the sink. It's made of sun and gold and something that feels like home, and it's reaching right into the center of my fear. I'm thinking, no, I'm too dirty for this. I'm too far down. I'm part of the sink now. But the light, it doesn't care what I think. It grasps me. And for the first time since I took that sip of coffee in Detroit, I feel like I have a weight again. I'm not a point of awareness. I'm being held. And it's not just a hand, I'm looking at him and my mind is trying to shut down. It's trying to tell me this is a hallucination or some kind of weird brain misfire from the lack of oxygen. But the sink was too real, and this is even more real. I'm seeing him and he's standing in the middle of this absolute nothingness, but he's carrying the light with him. It's like he's the source of it, and it's pouring out of his skin, out of his clothes, but it isn't blinding. It's the opposite of blinding. It's like, for the first time in my life, I'm actually seeing. I know him. I don't know how I know him, but my heart is just thudding against my ribs. And I'm thinking, Isa, is that you? And he looks at me and his eyes, they aren't like any eyes I've ever seen in Detroit or anywhere else. They're like looking into a deep, clear well where there's only truth. There's no judgment. I expected judgment. I was waiting for the sink to tell me why I was there, but he's smiling. It's a small smile, like he's been waiting for me to wake up from a bad dream. He speaks, but it's not words hitting my ears. It's words appearing in my chest. He says, Sadia, don't be afraid. I've got you. You aren't lost. And I'm shaking. I'm literally vibrating in his grasp. And I'm trying to say so many things at once. I'm trying to apologize for being in the sink. And I'm trying to ask if I'm dead. And I'm trying to figure out why the garden is gone. But he just places a hand on my shoulder. And the moment he touches me, the sound of the sink, that screaming silence, it just shatters. It sounds like a million glass bells all ringing at once, and then they just melt into this harmony. He says, we have to go. It's not time for you to stay in the dark. And then the pull starts. It's not like being lifted. It's like the entire universe is being inverted. The sink is falling away. It's getting smaller and smaller, like a tiny black pebble in a sea of gold. I'm looking at him and I realize he isn't just a person. He's like a structural necessity. He's the thing that keeps the whole world from collapsing into that hole I was just in. I'm clinging to him, and the air, it's starting to smell like something I can't name. It's like rain on hot pavement, but also like roses and cedar and something ancient. I ask him, where are we going? And he doesn't answer with a place. He just looks up, and I look up with him, and that's when I see the first shimmer of the foundations. This transition is where my research usually starts to hit a wall. In our database, we have over 400 accounts of what we call the grasp. It's a nearly universal motif in NDEs that involve a descent into a void or a distressing environment. But what's fascinating here is the demographic friction. Sadia is a 34-year-old Muslim woman from an urban environment. When her consciousness underwent this existential rupture, it didn't reach for a generic guide or a deceased relative. It recognized a specific figure, Isa or Jesus. From a phenomenological perspective, we have to ask, is the consciousness retrieving a cultural archetype to save itself from the sink, or is it experiencing an objective external reality that overrides the individual's previous mental maps? I'm sitting with this because it complicates the models I've been building. If NDEs were purely subjective brain state events, we would expect the imagery to remain strictly within the boundaries of the person's lived experience. But Sadia's account shows a perceptual inversion. Her identity as a Muslim isn't erased, but it's being expanded or challenged by the presence of this figure. And notice the sensory details. She doesn't describe him as ethereal. She describes the light as having a texture and a scent. This is what we call hyperqualia, the sensation that the experience is more real than real. When she says he is a structural necessity, she's describing a shift in how she perceives the very fabric of existence. He isn't just a character in a story, he's the architecture that replaces the vacuum. This pattern, the figure as the bridge out of non-existence, is something we see across professions and cultures, and every time it arrives, it forces me to reconsider what I think I know about the rescue phase. We're moving so fast, but I don't feel any wind. It's like the space itself is just moving through us. I'm still holding onto his arm, and I can feel the fabric of his sleeve, and it's rough, like wool, but it also feels like it's made of woven light. Everything is a contradiction. He's a man, but he's also everything. I keep looking back at where the sink was because I'm terrified it's going to reach out and grab my heel. But Jesus, he just tightens his grip and he says, "Don't look back, Sadia. Look at what's ahead. Look at what's being prepared." And then I see it. It's not like a city you see in a distance when you're driving on the highway. It's like the horizon itself just decides to turn into gold. I see these walls, and they're so high I have to tilt my head back until it hurts, and they're glowing with this color. It's like jasper, but a jasper that's alive. It's pulsing. I'm an urban planner. I look at layouts for a living, and I'm trying to count the gates. I'm trying to see the zoning, but my brain is it's crashing. I see these gates and they're massive. Each one is just a single glowing pearl. Not a bunch of pearls stuck together, but one solid, perfect sphere that's been opened up, and the light coming from inside. It makes the Detroit sun look like a flashlight with dying batteries. I'm starting to hear the music now. It's not like a choir. It's like the walls themselves are singing. It's a hum that goes right through my bones. I look at him and I say, "I'm not supposed to be here. This is too much. I was just in my garden. I was just having coffee." And he just laughs. It's the most beautiful sound I've ever heard. It's a laugh that sounds like he knows a secret that's so good it makes the whole sink irrelevant. He says, "Sadia, you were always supposed to be here. This is the city I've been building for you." And then we reach the first gate. I can see the street inside, and it's not gold like jewelry. It's gold like liquid glass that you can see through. I'm stepping onto it, and I'm waiting to sink. I'm waiting for it to be fake, but it's solid. It's more solid than the pavement in Detroit. It's the most solid thing I've ever touched. I'm standing on this street, and it's like I'm walking on a frozen sun. It's gold, but I can see through it. I can see miles and miles of depth beneath my feet, like layers of light stacked on top of each other. I'm looking around, and there is no sky. There's just more city. I look up and I see more streets and more buildings stretching so high that they just disappear into this golden haze. Everything is a perfect square. It's so symmetrical, it should feel cold, it should feel like a machine, but it's the warmest place I've ever been. I'm breathing, and the air, it doesn't just go into my lungs, it feels like it's feeding my skin. It tastes like, I don't know, it tastes like the color green. It tastes like life. And I look at Isa, and he's just watching me. He's watching me take it all in like a father watching his kid at the playground. I ask him, I say, "How big is this place?" And he tells me, he says it's a cube, 1,400 miles in every direction. And my brain, it just stops. I'm trying to imagine Detroit. I'm trying to imagine the whole state of Michigan, and this place would just swallow it. It's a city that's as tall as it is wide. It's a mountain and a city all at once. And the light, there's no sun. I'm looking for a light source. I'm looking for shadows, but there aren't any. Every single thing, every blade of grass in the distance, every stone in the walls, it's all giving off its own light. It's like the glory of God is the actual atmosphere. It's the power grid. It's the thing that makes everything stay alive. We start walking toward the center, and I see the river. It's running right down the middle of the main boulevard. But it isn't water. It's liquid music. That's the only way I can say it. It's crystal clear, but as it flows over the rocks, it makes these notes, these harmonies that match the humming of the walls. I'm reaching down, I want to touch it so bad, and when my fingers hit the surface, it's not cold. It's like a surge of pure joy goes up my arm and hits me right in the heart. And there are people. So many people. I'm seeing crowds, but there's no noise, no traffic, no friction. Everyone is wearing these robes that look like they're woven out of the same light as the streets. And then I see her. I see my grandmother. She's standing near one of the trees by the river. These trees that have fruit I've never seen, 12 different kinds, and the leaves are shimmering. She looks like she's 20. She doesn't have the shakes anymore. She doesn't look tired. She just looks at me and she says, "Sadia, you're finally seeing it. Isn't it better than we imagined?" I have to pause here because Sadia's description of the holy city as a perfect cube aligns with a very specific data set we've been tracking. Several people in our community have pointed out that the 1,400-mile cube described in the book of Revelation is often dismissed as purely symbolic or metaphorical. But when we look at NDE accounts from people like Sadia, people who have a background in designing and understanding physical space, they don't describe it as a metaphor. They describe it as a geometric reality that violates every rule of planetary physics we have. This is a cognitive reappraisal. Sadia is trying to map the qualia of a multidimensional environment onto her three-dimensional brain. In our research, we've noticed that architects and planners who have NDEs often report this symmetry of joy, the idea that the city's perfection is what creates its peace. It's the ultimate solution to the noise of human existence. I'm also interested in the river of life. She describes it as liquid music. This is a recurring detail in about 15% of the city accounts we've collected. It suggests that in this state of consciousness, sensory input isn't partitioned the way it is here. You don't just hear music, you feel it and see it. This synesthesia of the divine is a marker of a higher order phenomenological state. One of our commenters, a physics student, once asked if the light in these visions has a direction. Sadia's observation that there are no shadows, that the objects themselves are the light source, is a profound piece of data. It suggests an environment where entropy has been reversed. Instead of light decaying as it hits an object, the object itself generates the energy. It's a complete inversion of our physical laws, and it's why these accounts feel so impossible to people who haven't been there. I'm hugging my grandmother and I can feel her. She's solid. She's not a ghost. I can smell her perfume, that rose water she always used to wear, but it's better. It's like the best version of her. I'm crying, I'm just sobbing into her shoulder, and Isa is just standing there, letting us have this moment. I look at the trees again, and I notice the leaves. They're moving, but there's no wind. They're moving in time with the music of the river. Jesus tells me, those leaves are for the healing of the nations, Sadia. Everything here is meant to restore what was broken. I'm thinking about Detroit. I'm thinking about the cracked sidewalks and the abandoned buildings and the way people are always looking over their shoulders. And I look at this city, this New Jerusalem, and I realize it's the answer to every prayer I ever had for my own city. There's no fear here. There's no wrong side of the tracks. Everyone belongs. Everyone has a place. We start moving again, deeper into the heart of the city, and the buildings, they're getting more magnificent. They're made of gold and pearls and emeralds, but it's not like a display of wealth. It's like they're built out of the attributes of God. Like one building is patience and another is kindness. I know that sounds crazy, but that's how it felt. You could feel the personality of the architecture. We reach this area that he calls the Father's house. And it's not a house. It's a palace that stretches beyond the horizon. It's so big that it should be intimidating, but it feels like my bedroom when I was 5 years old. It feels like the safest place in the universe. He stops in front of this massive entrance and he looks at me. He says, "I have something to show you, Sadia. Something I've been preparing just for you. Your room is ready." And I'm hesitating. I'm looking back at the street and the river and all the people, and I'm wondering if I'm allowed to go inside. I'm thinking about the sink. I'm thinking about how dark it was just a few minutes ago. And I ask him, "Why me? Why did you come get me?" And he just puts his hand on my head. He says, "Because I love you, Sadia, and because you aren't done yet. But before you go back, I want you to see where you're going to live forever." We walk through these doors and I'm losing my breath again, but in a good way this time. It's not like the garden. The Father's house is so vast. It's like a mountain range made of pearls and light. But when we get to this one hallway, it starts to feel not cramped, but intimate, like the walls are leaning in to give me a hug. Jesus stops at this one door. It's a simple door compared to the pearly gates, just beautiful, dark wood that smells like cedar and ancient limestone. He looks at me and he's glowing, he's just beaming, and he says, "This is yours, Sadia. I've been working on this for a long time." He opens it and I can't. I can't even describe it without wanting to cry. It's a room, but it's more like a world. It's filled with these soft, dusty blues and greens, the exact colors of the Detroit River on a clear morning. There's a terrace that looks out over the city, and the music from the River of Life is drifting in like a breeze. I see this bookshelf. It's massive. And I walk over to it, and the books, they aren't stories, they're journals. I pull one out and I realize it's a record of every time I ever talked to God. Every "please help me" I whispered in my kitchen. Every "thank you" I felt when I saw a sunset. Every word was saved. He didn't miss a single one. And then there's this display. It looks like medals or trophies, and I'm confused because I'm not a hero. I'm just an urban planner. I haven't done anything big. But I look closer and I see they're for things I forgot. One is for the time I stayed late to help a coworker who was crying. Another is for the way I treated the man who sleeps on the corner of my block. Jesus tells me, "In my Father's house, Sadia, nothing is small. Every act of love is a monument." I'm sitting on the edge of this bed that feels like it's made of clouds and silk, and I'm looking at him, and I don't want to leave. I tell him, "Please, don't make me go back to the sink. Don't make me go back to the pain." And he sits down next to me. He takes my hand, and his hand is so warm, it feels like it's healing the cells in my body. He says, "Sadia, you aren't going back to the sink. I've broken that. But you have work to do. There are people in Detroit who need to know that the sink isn't the end. They need to know about the city." I'm trying to argue. I'm trying to say I'm not strong enough, but the room, it starts to vibrate. The blues and the greens start to swirl together, and the sound of the river gets louder and louder until it's all I can hear. He leans in and he whispers, "I'm always with you. Remember the light." And then there's this thud. That thud is something we hear in nearly every account where the return is sudden. From a phenomenological standpoint, it's the sensation of the consciousness being reseated into the biological hardware. The expansion of the city and the Father's house has to be compressed back into a brain that works on linear seconds and physical pain. I'm particularly struck by the room. In our research, we found that these personalized dwelling places serve as a powerful data point for identity preservation. The NDE isn't a dissolution of the self into a generic oneness. It's a radical sharpening of the self. The room matches Sadia because Sadia is a specific, unique creation. The books of prayers and the medals for small acts suggest that our existence here is a form of data collection for a larger, more permanent infrastructure. I have to admit my own bias here. I've always been skeptical of reward systems and spiritual narratives. It feels too human, too transactional. But when I analyze Sadia's account, I see it differently. It's not about payment, it's about weight. Every act of love she performed on earth added weight to her soul, making her more compatible with the density of the city. The transition she describes, from the non-linear, eternal now of the room back to the ICU, is a massive psychological trauma in itself. We see a pattern where people who return from these high-order visions struggle with temporal rupture for years. They are physically in Detroit, but their intentionality is still fixed on the River of Life. The thud. It feels like I was dropped from a plane and landed on a concrete floor. Everything hurts. My throat feels like it's been scraped with glass, and my chest, it feels like there's an elephant sitting on it. I can hear these machines beeping, that rhythmic, annoying hospital sound, and I smell bleach and old coffee. I open my eyes and the light is wrong. It's that fluorescent, flickering hospital light. It's not the glory. It's not the city. I start to cry, but my throat is so dry, it just comes out as this pathetic rasp. I see a nurse running toward me, shouting for the doctor, and I'm trying to tell her about the pearls. I'm trying to tell her that I saw my grandmother. It's been months now. They told me I was gone for several minutes, that my heart had just stopped there in the garden. They called it a miracle that I didn't have brain damage. But I'm different. I look at Detroit now and I don't see the blight or the broken windows. I see the before. I see the potential for the city that's coming. I'm not afraid anymore. How can I be afraid of a sip of coffee or a snap in my chest when I know what's waiting? I still have my journals, my earthly ones, and I'm writing everything down because I don't want the memory to fade. I want to remember the way Jesus laughed. I want to remember that his sleeve was rough, like wool. If you're listening to this and you're scared of the dark, if you feel like you're settling into your own version of the sink, I just want you to know that the light is real. It's more real than the chair you're sitting in. It's looking for you. It's reaching for you. And one day, you're going to step onto that transparent gold, and you're going to realize that you were never, ever alone. I honestly don't know what to make of this. As a researcher, I'm supposed to maintain a distance, to look at the city as a recurring linguistic trope. But Sadia's account has a physical density to it that I can't shake. The detail about the medals for small acts, it's been haunting me. So here is what I'm left with. If the city is a constant, why do some people see it as a vast, high-tech metropolis, while others describe it as a lush, primordial garden with no structures at all? Is the architecture of the other side a reflection of our own progress, or is it something that we only see when our cultural maps allow it? I'm genuinely asking you, have any of you experienced a city that felt like a house? Or a house that felt like a universe? Because I'm starting to think that the place isn't the point. The relationship is. I'm tracking this pattern for our next submission. We have an account coming in from a man who spent his life in the deep woods, someone with almost no concept of urban life. I want to see if he saw the gates or if the light showed him something else entirely. Until then, I'm sitting with Sadia's thud, because it's a reminder that we're all just one breath away from the gold.